Good evening, beautiful Thursday evening that it is. That on behalf of the Rescuing Our Communities podcast, I am Clayton here with my weekly beginning of the series and the initiative into empowering and educating single fathers and those who may have been maliciously prosecuted by corrupt, racist, or bigot. I just want to say, not even bigot, just discriminatory members of law enforcement. So, a little bit of good news before we start. As many people who have been watching my podcast for the last year or so, I'm involved in litigation between several state prosecutors for malicious prosecution and civil rights violations. I have some good news today. Looks like one of my cases, the main case that I've been talking about mainly, which is against the Richmond County DA's office, will be moving forward. It looks like now I'll finally be going to federal court. It looks like the date of my first appearance is July 2nd. And now the Staten Island District Attorney's Office is going to have to answer for all of the criminal violations, the criminal and procedural due process violations that they committed against me finally in federal court within the next month. So people, let's clap for fucking progress. Let's be happy for progress. Let's be happy for success. Let's be happy that the corrupt members of law enforcement who sought to frame me, defame me, and totally frame me for something I never did, let's be happy and let's be satisfied in the fact that justice is coming for them, because now they will have to answer to a federal judge and explain why they did the things they did to me. As I've talked about in this podcast, it is very hard to sue the police, prosecutors, or judges because they're protected by what's known as immunity. That immunity has several forms. It could either be a qualified immunity, which is what the police have. Basically, it makes them immune from acts. It makes them immune from actions and mistakes they may commit on the job it makes them immune, from mistakes they commit on the job while they're on the job. So they can't actually be held accountable or prosecuted or sued if they make a mistake, honest mistake while on the job, unless it can be determined in court that that mistake was malicious, intentional, or a direct violation of someone else's civil rights. Then they don't get immunity. Then they have to respond. So as it turns out now, finally, my case is going to go before the federal judge, the city of New York, because the city of New York is responsible for the NYPD, and the district attorney's office is going to have to answer for what the NYPD and Staten Island district attorney's office did to me. So people, I am very happy today because finally we get to hold the scum of Staten Island responsible for the racist and discriminatory practices that it imposed on me when it framed me for something that the district attorney knew I never did. But it's not that simple, people, because again, corruption can only occur when every member of a law enforcement, I want to say, system is involved. The advocates, the administrators, the cops, the prosecutors, and the judges. The hardest person it's going to be to hold accountable for anything that happens to you is a judge and a prosecutor, because they have what's called absolute immunity. Prosecutors have absolute immunity when they're in the course of a prosecution, but when they're in the investigative stage, let's say they're trying to gather witnesses, go through testimony, put evidence together, then they have qualified immunity. But as long as they're prosecuting a case, they have absolute immunity. And the only way that you can do anything to stop them is to pierce that absolute immunity by exposing the fact that they may have violated your procedural due rights or they may have broken the law. This is what happened with me in Staten Island. When a cop falsely arrested me for allegations that he knew were entirely false, simply to satisfy my ex-girlfriend, who the district attorney of Staten Island, I believe, was sexually involved with. People, I fought this case for over 2 years, just trying to get my name cleared. I'm still fighting the case because the Richmond County DA's office refuses to acknowledge the fact that I was completely innocent when it framed me for when it framed me for stalking and harassment of a woman that I had won a lifetime order of protection against. But I've matured a great deal, people, and I realized that it's not about simply embarrassing the DA, because the district attorney's office is an institution. So even one embarrassment of a malicious prosecution doesn't destroy the entire system, because the system has to move forward. The system is responsible for holding and upholding, law and order within the community of Staten Island. So my mission is not to destroy the district attorney's office, because I can't destroy an office that the community needs. My mission is to expose the current district attorney. Because if I can expose the fact that he has committed so much misconduct against a black man for a simple misdemeanor domestic violence offense, it opens the floodgates of information up so people can ask themselves the question, well, if he framed this guy for a misdemeanor domestic violence offense, what about all of these other people who've been saying that he's done something? And people, that's my mission. Because a racist prosecutor should never be left in power, people. It's not about black and white. It's about right and wrong. It's about justice and it's about equality. It's not about arresting people for things that they didn't do because you don't like their skin color or their mannerism. That's not what crime is about. Criminal justice, is about holding offenders accountable who actually do commit crimes, not falsifying crimes so you can arrest innocent people because they happen to be men, black, or a specific majority segmented group that you want to oppress and control. And this is what happens in law enforcement with the use of the family court and the false allegations filed by women who choose to weaponize the police and weaponize family court to obtain revenge or whatever it might be against a man who may have hurt them. This is a very, very common practice nowadays in law enforcement and domestic violence, where you have hundreds of thousands of innocent people arrested every year for false allegations filed by someone else who may just want to get revenge on them. People, when you are in situations like this, there's not really much you can do but fight. But it's even worse when you're in a situation where you may have a judge that's corrupt. And this judge does things like violate your procedural due process by not allowing you to properly defend yourself in a criminal or family case, by refusing to hold an offender accountable, even though the judge knows that an offender is doing something to you, by failing to grant you the equal protection that the Constitution provides you as a litigant, as a citizen, and as an individual. When judges do things like this, people, they can be held liable for judicial misconduct violations. Now, it's not easy, people, because it's not like you can just go to court and say, hey, this judge lied on me. No, it takes a lot of work to hold a judge accountable, and you have to be right. So today's podcast, we're going to talk about the only three ways that you can hold a judge accountable. And that's going to be, one, a complaint to the head judge of whatever court it is. Every court, whether you're in a superior court or a supreme court in your state, has a main judge that supervises that court. It's going to be a presiding judge. It's going to be an administrative judge. It's going to be a supervising judge. It's going to be one judge that's going to be responsible for every other judge that's within a criminal court that you may be involved, that you may be a party to, a civil court that you may be a party to, a family court that you may be a party to. Just because there may be 5 judges in the family court, and we're going to keep it to the family court because that's what I speak about. Let's say that your local family court, your local county family court has 5 judges. Those 5 judges will always be supervised by a judge over them. And the only way that you can have that judge held accountable is by filing a complaint with the presiding judge or the supervising judge of that court. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that because I believe it's really important for you to understand the process of how to hold the judge accountable. And it's not something that can easily be done by simply writing a letter. There's a structure, there's a format, and we're going to try to go through that briefly today. So at least, people who do have problems with judges, you may get a basic understanding of how to file a complaint against a judge who may violate your procedural due process. Excuse me. So today, we're going to discuss filing a formal complaint against against a judge who may be supervising a family matter that you're involved in. And like I said, you have to contact the administrative or the supervising judge of whatever family court you may be involved in. So what you will do is write a formal complaint or a motion. And you can file that written complaint with the administrative judge. I'm using Brooklyn, for example, of the Brooklyn Family Court to detail the procedural due process violations, bias, and misconduct that you're speaking of. You want to include specific dates. You want to have documentations of any orders that were ignored by another party. You want to have evidence of the denied motions or fact-finding hearings that you requested. You want to have a complete timeline of the entire course of events that may have happened during the entire course of your litigation. When you see a document that asks you for a procedural history is different from a history of the case. The procedural history only details the procedural history of the matter that you're involved in. A good example is, let's say your case starts March 3rd of 2021. The next time you go back to court is April 5th and you get a visitation order. You go back to court in September and you have a what do you call it? A unsupervised visitation order granted to you. Every time an order is granted, every time a motion is heard, every time a motion is denied, every time the judge does something significant on the record, that becomes part of the procedural history of the case. So when you file a complaint with the main judge against a judge, you want to include as much as the procedural history of the case as you can into your complaint, so the main judge knows the context of the entire situation as it relates to the litigation. So you want to have evidence of your denied motions or things you're trying to see. You want to have a timeline of the events. And then what you want to do is when you actually write this administrative or this supervising judge, you want to ask for one of two things. Well, three things. The one thing you definitely want is an investigation into your case. You're going to file a motion to either have the judge disqualified or the judge to recuse themselves. Disqualifying the judge means that based on the things you're reporting, the judge is no longer fit to reside on your case, so the supervising judge will disqualify them from hearing your case and being able to dispense justice. The judge recusing themselves is the judge realizing that the judge may have committed some improprieties, and the judge steps down from that position and allows you to get a new judge. Most judges are not going to do that because if they recuse themselves from a case, most of the time it indicates some form of misconduct, and that reflects badly on judges. So they don't like to do that. So you're probably only going to have two options, and that's to file this administrative complaint with the courts and to sue the court civilly using the Monell Doctrine to hold the county or the municipality or the state, even if it's the state, that supervises this court responsible for the actions of the judge themselves, because judges are mandated by the state to have training. The state pays for training for a judge. The state is supposed to, or the municipality, is supposed to make sure a judge is mentally competent to dispense the law and to make decisions to you. So if a judge makes a decision that can be determined that's based on a lack of training or a lack of knowledge, then the municipality itself is responsible for that judge failing to be up to date on the procedures or the law as it regards to a situation where someone's rights can be violated. And this is what I encourage anyone to do with the family court. When the family court grants an order of protection against you for allegations that do not constitute a family offense, that's a procedural due process violation. When the family court has you, when you're arrested for an order of protection being granted before you were even served with the order, again, people, that's a procedural due process violation. If a judge takes your child from you and there is no allegation of physical abuse towards this child or harm towards you, but a judge restricts you from seeing your child and gives you supervised visitation based on completely unsupported allegations against the mother, that's a procedural due process violation. Because as it relates to the 14th Amendment, a court cannot strip you, the natural parents, of your right of access to the child without there being some direct allegation of abuse or misconduct or physical danger to the child. The child has to be in danger some way, whether psychologically or physically, in order for a state to strip you of your right to have free access to your child. So when things like this happen, most people don't realize, because of the emotional, I want to say, trauma of the situation, is you do have options. When the mother of your child or your child's father decides to lie on you, most of us get really, we allow our egos to get involved. I know I'll speak for myself personally. When my child's mother was doing the things that she did to me with my child, people, my ego was highly involved, because to me it was like, this is my daughter. Who does this crusty roach think she's gonna control by trying to keep me away from my child because I don't want her? So people, my ego was highly involved. You know, even though my child is an uneducated, crusty roach, I kind of knew what she was doing. She was manipulating her position as the child's mother and a woman to create a barrier for me, simply to bar me from the child, because I wouldn't submit to the way she wanted things. So people, for 3 years of my life, I went through hell because my ego would not allow me to accept the truth of my situation, which is that I was not going to win. The court was corrupt. The woman was a piece of shit. And I was dealing with misconduct on such a severe level that there was no way I was going to win in a court that encouraged women to lie and to pursue misconduct and procedural due process violations. So people eventually, what I decided to do, like I've said, is sign over all of my custody rights and take them under the federal court and the court to state in the Brooklyn Family Court to federal court, excuse me, to pose the federal question to the court as to whether or not my 14th Amendment parental rights were unlawfully violated when my parental rights were stripped without any allegation of physical abuse or harm to the child being made against me. And when I put this question to the federal courts, I know what they're going to say. They're going to say that it did happen. So what I'm going back to now is part of suing the court is you have to exhaust all administrative remedies. You can't say a judge violated your rights and you never took an opportunity to hold the judge accountable. So this here gives you the opportunity to hold the judge accountable by allowing you to structure what you need to do in such a way that the primary judge that supervises the judge that may have violated your civil rights has a mechanism to hear what you're saying and make a decision whether or not this judge may have violated your procedural due process or broken judicial conduct. Now, I'm not going to say this is a guaranteed method that is going to work, because it doesn't. You got to remember, these judges stick together. The cops stick together. The prosecutors stick together. But at least if you can document it clearly by putting it on a piece of paper, you then stand a chance in order to at least show a federal court, hey, listen, I exhausted all of my administrative remedies. When the judge violated my procedural due process or constitutional rights, I contacted the supervisor or the administrative judge, who neither answered me, deferred me, or declined my case. Because even if your case is declined, at least you can show a federal court, hey, listen, I did write this judge up several times. I did provide evidence, but the court did nothing, which actually strengthens your federal allegation against the court, your child's mother, your child's father, whoever you may be suing for violating your constitutional and civil rights. That's what it'll do. So when you report the judge, if the judge is violating your civil rights, if you want to go beyond the local court, you're going to go to the New York State Commission of Judicial Conduct if you're in New York State. But any state that you may be in, you can do a simple Google search on how to report a judge, and it will tell you, the state agency responsible for investigating judges. And that's going to be a primary place you're going to have to go. You contact the administrative judge, the main judge who's in charge of whatever court you may be violated in, and then you contact the State Board of Judicial Conduct, and you basically want to give them an exact copy, maybe not exact because you're going to have to structure it and word it in a different way, but you want to give them the same allegations, the same thing that you're putting before the administrative or the presiding judge or the supervising judge. You want to put that before the Judicial Review Board, because basically what you're doing is you're showing the Judicial Review Board and you're showing the administrative judge what this judge who's in charge of your case has done to you. Now, again, I'm going to warn everybody, this is not something that I'm going to say will work for you right out of the gate. Most of the time, it probably won't, because you're not an attorney. I'm going to tell you that now, unless you have an attorney who can do this. If you're not an attorney, if you've never drafted legal documents, if you don't know how to draft a complaint, a response, a reply, things like that, it's something you're probably going to fail at. I'm going to be honest with you. But if you're, I want to say, at least competent enough to structure a document, then a simple search of ChatGPT will show you how to structure a complaint. I can actually show you here, but who's going to watch this later to really see it? Let's try it. Well, actually, I did do it. So what I'll do is I'll post this document up. I'll post a link to this document up after the video or in the video itself, so you can go download this document and you'll basically be able to see yourself how to complain against the judge. The document I've created is for New York State, but it's pretty much transferable to any state in the continental United States. Simply look up your state's criteria, look up the state's regulatory board that investigates judges, replace the name of your state's regulatory board, your state's investigative body for judges with the information in this document, and you should be good to go. You want to keep everything neat. You want to keep everything well structured. You want to provide as much documentation as you can. And documentation is not going to be stupid things like text between you and the mother, even though that does help. You want to include in as much information about the judge as you actually can. Now, what type of documentation suffices in a complaint where you're trying to hold the judge accountable? The best thing you're going to have is transcripts. Transcripts are the gold of holding lawyers, prosecutors, and judges accountable for procedural due process violations while they're in the court. Because a transcript is just the record of the court. If a judge says something prejudicial to you, if a lawyer says something racist to you, if a lawyer decides to withhold evidence that keeps you, that can acquit you, things like that are stated on the record, the transcript is the easiest way you're going to catch it and bring that to the attention of somebody higher up above that something may not be right in this court. The next thing is going to be the petitions and the motions that you file and the orders or the responses to those petitions and motions from the court. Because if you're filing motions that are just, I want to say just, accurate, and upheld by legal canon and legal statute, and the judge is still dismissing them, what it can indicate is that the judge is discriminating against you or not providing you with an equal opportunity to a fair prosecution. The last thing you want to do is you want to have like you want to have secondary evidence. The secondary evidence I'm talking about is like emails between you and any members of the court. Let it be the court clerk, court staff, court admins, maybe it's opposing counsel. You want to include as much documentation to show the communication between you and key parties involved in the matter to show an administrative judge the things that are going on in this court. You're going to pack all of that up as neatly as you can into exhibits. You're going to label everything with letters, You'll have an exhibit A that may be all the petitions you filed. You'll have exhibit B that may be all the orders that were issued by the court, whether they were granted or denied. You may have an exhibit C that's like the transcript from August. Exhibit D might be the transcript from the following year, July. Or they could be transcripts from every time you go to the court, because the more transcripts you have to show what's been going on in the court without your actual writing and your word, the easier it's going to be to prove if a judge has done something to violate your rights. It's going to be super easy with a transcript. If a judge says something on the record that is against judicial canon, against statutory law, against family law, and the judge says it on the record and you get that transcript, it's a slam dunk to get a judge removed from a case like that. I want to tell you a little bit about how I got a judge removed in the Brooklyn Family Court, which is where this document originated from 2 years ago. A Brooklyn Family Court judge by the name of Caroline Cohen. She actually assigned myself and my child's mother the exact same lawyer in a child custody case. Now, the same lawyer cannot represent two different parties on the same matter. Why? Because that's unfair. How can the same lawyer represent two people if two people are going against each other? There's no way it can happen, and it's a serious violation of judicial ethics. But this judge did this to me last year, I think it was, in 2000. It might have been in 2023, So it was probably about 2 years ago. So now, people, I was starting my journey into the law. I didn't know any of this. I might not have even started yet, people. I might have still been paying lawyers. So I didn't really know that this was going on. I think I had just gone broke at the time. So I couldn't actually afford to pay a new lawyer. So the court had assigned me this lawyer. So now this lawyer pretends to be my attorney for about 2-3 weeks. And then when the court hearing comes up, he decides to notify me literally 12 hours before the hearing that he was never my attorney. He's assigned to my child's mother, and he denies that he ever spoke to me. So now I go to court, and this disgusting racist man lies through his teeth and tells the judge that he never spoke to me. I'm a pathological liar. He never spoke to me. The judge denies the fact that she ever assigned this gentleman to me. She tells me that I must have gotten his information by listening to her talk about my child's mother. She would have never assigned me the same judge, and this judge flatly lies. So people, as you can imagine, I was pissed. What? I knew this judge had done it. So what I did was I went to ChatGPT 2.5 years ago, and I went to an AI platform. It might not have been ChatGPT, but I typed this in, and I remember specifically I typed in, how can I have a judge held accountable for violating my rights in the state of New York? And this document came up, and basically it explained everything to me and how to do it. So once I got the transcripts from the hearing where the judge assigned me my child's mother's lawyer, the hearing where the lawyer and the judge lied, and then the following hearing after that where I tried to argue this and they lied again, what I did was make an emergency letter application to the administrative judge, or the supervising judge, of the Brooklyn Family Court. I believe her name was Amanda White at the time. And I sent her all of those transcripts with an order to show cause. People, It took about 24 hours. The next day, I got a phone call from the judge's clerk telling me could I be available at 2 o'clock. When I got into court at 2 o'clock, the judge in charge of my case recused herself, and my child's lawyer had to resign from the case for the professional misconduct. Now, if I didn't know how to do that, that lawyer would have never recused himself from the case. He would have never got removed from the case, and the judge would have never recused herself. They would have totally violated my procedural due process by assigning me and opposing counsel the same lawyer, and then would have lied about it on the record, hoping that I lacked the that I didn't have the legal knowledge to hold them accountable for what they did. So people, when that happened to me, I learned a great lesson. Clayton, you need the transcript. The transcripts are what expose corruption within court proceedings. So I got to go because this is only going to be a 30-minute podcast. I may continue some of it tomorrow, but the whole lesson, the point of what I learned here is that the only way you can hold a judge accountable is by documenting what that judge does and then using the evidence from the trial transcripts, the motions, the orders, and the judgments that are filed and decided by the judge to present them to a higher judge to have that judge's actions held accountable. And then based off this decision of whatever that supervising, presiding judge is or controlling judge of the court, you just add that to your civil complaint, and then you would sue the county, the municipality, for the failure to train this judge in proper procedure or statutory requirements. And that's how it would basically go. So I kind of feel like I rushed this because I'm really on a time schedule, people. I got like 30 minutes. I got like 3 minutes left. I only have 30 minutes today, so I probably shouldn't have done this. But in keeping consistent and trying to empower people who may be going through things like myself when I was dealing with a vexatious, bitter woman who was lying on me to the police, people, I am quite serious about trying to educate others into learning how to fight against malicious prosecution and vexatious petitions. Because malicious prosecution is real, people. The only way to fight a malicious prosecution is to learn how to fight the judges and the people who file those reports against you. The only true way you can hold someone accountable, a civilian who does something to have you maliciously prosecuted, is with a civil suit. Do not rely on the police to arrest the person who files a false police report on you. Do not rely on the family court to hold someone to a violation who may file false allegations against you and use a petition in the family court to obtain a false order of protection against you. I have a confession that's going to break a lot of people's hearts and upset even more people than the hearts is going to break. And it's this: law enforcement will never arrest someone who files a false report unless they are made to do it. They will completely ignore your complaint. They will do everything in their power not to hold someone who files a false report responsible. And it's not because they believe that people are not going to file complaints. That's absolutely the exact opposite of why they do it. Law enforcement doesn't hold people who file false complaints accountable because if they do, it's going to discourage the other lying bastards who file false complaints on people from doing the same thing. And that's going to diminish the arrest statistics that the police use to make it seem as though they're doing their job. Because I totally believe that 30 or 40% of the domestic violence arrests that happen yearly are false. And the police know it. But they use those arrest statistics to make it seem like they're doing their job of fighting crime, fighting domestic violence, protecting civilian rights. People, it's complete bullshit. They're really not. What they're doing is they're using the trumped up domestic violence arrest to make it seem as though the police system is efficient, when the truth of the matter is it's not. I'm not going to say the police are totally useless, because I did see something that happened in Woodbridge actually the other day where I used to live, where this guy went to a woman's house. He had an order of protection for him, but she had an order of protection against him, but he wasn't trying to hear that. He went, bust her windows out in her truck, all of this, and the police ended up shooting and killing him because she did have an order of protection against him. He was bugging the hell out. And I believe it's situations like that why so many men are still perceived to be these violent offenders when a woman has an order of protection, that men will still go after them. Because the truth is there is still a very small percentage of men who do it. But the majority of men nowadays are wise enough to realize that when women get orders of protection, you want to stay all the way the hell away from them, because the police don't care whether or not that you did it or not. They literally are just waiting for this woman to use the order of protection to file a false allegation on you. They're not going to investigate it. They're not going to try to see if you did it. They're going to arrest you and they're going to let the court deal with it. Now, is it opening up police departments like the NYPD to numerous civil litigation matters? Yes, it is. People, I'm about to get a couple $1 million from the NYPD for doing exactly this. Is it right? No, people. The only way we can really fight it is by holding the people accountable who refuse to arrest people like those who file false petitions on people. And that's my mission, people. I'm going to advocate every day. I'm going to have marches. I'm going to have classes. I'm going to keep going with this, even if Staten Island and the NYPD, excuse me, New York City do settle, which they will. It doesn't mean that the advocacy is going to stop. It's never going to stop against the Staten Island District Attorney's Office because I grew up on Staten Island. And I personally feel that the community of Staten Island owed me a debt. It owed my family a debt other than to prosecute me and attempt to destroy my family name and my reputation off the lies of a broken-hearted child. And that's exactly what happened to me when the political structure of a small community decided to make me the enemy of the community for allegedly domestically abusing a woman. It was later proved that I never touched people. None of these supposed upstanding political figures, none of these upstanding people who I had personal relationships with now, mind you, none of them offered me an apology. They all pretended to act like nothing happened. They all pretended to go on with their lives, despite the fact that they had completely damaged mine. So when you see me up here and you see me advocate against Staten Island, when you see me speak about the racial injustice, the discrimination, the bias of law enforcement on Staten Island, I don't even live on Staten Island, people. I grew up there. But I speak about it because it's something that's close to my heart, and I know that this community is controlled by a racist district attorney and by sellout minorities like the pastor of Mount Sinai Church, about local councilwoman Camilla Hanks, like I'm trying to think of some more people off the top of my head while I have this up here. People like Deborah Rose, people you like Charles Fall, people you have a bunch of I don't even want to call him Uncle Tom because Uncle Tom was the hero of Uncle Tom's Cabin. You got a bunch of Sambo Negroes who will sell their mother out for a connection to the DA and for the appearance of political clout. People, I was a victim. It was wrong for these people to do the things they did to me, then try to cower like the weak people they are when their corruption was exposed. When the lies was exposed, these people cowered, people. They hid. None of them stepped up and said, you know something, this guy was done horribly wrong. We're wrong. No, people, I didn't deserve that because I was a black man who was angry. The only thing I deserved was to be ostracized and fucking falsely arrested. Excuse my language. And ladies and gentlemen, I disagree with that. I deserve far better than the community of Staten Island did to me and people. If they don't want to give it to me, I'm going to take it. And I'm never going to stop until I can prove what the Richmond County District Attorney's Office did to me and how the family court system is so corrupt that it allows women to lie through their teeth simply so they can stalk, harass, and destroy men who no longer want them to benefit the court's judicial process. This is wrong. We cannot allow it to continue to go on. And until we can come together as a group of people with a common goal, if everyone keeps pretending like it doesn't happen, we're never going to find a way to really deal with the problem. If you're falsely arrested and instead of trying to lobby to your councilman, instead of trying to write up the judge, instead of trying to file a false arrest lawsuit against the cop who falsely arrested you, you just say, oh, well, you know what? Fuck that chick. I'm going to move on. Nothing's ever going to change, guys. You're going to keep getting arrested for the lies of women. Women out there, you're going to keep getting disrespected when a guy really does something to you and the cops don't believe you because other women before you were lying through their teeth. See, women, it benefits you also to catch other women who lie and use false petitions of domestic violence because it makes all the other women out there who tell the truth even more truthful. It removes the liars from the cesspool of this garbage and domestic violence that use the process just to get revenge on men, and it leaves women who actually need the help there to get the help. It doesn't take cops away when a woman's being beat. Where now, if there wasn't a woman who was falsely using the process, the cops would have been there in 3 minutes. But now, because there's a woman who's filing false reports, it takes the cops 10 minutes to get there, and the woman dies. People, it makes no sense for anybody, women, racist. It makes no sense for you to protect people who file false reports. The truth of the matter is, the only thing it does is prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the system is far more broken than we think it is. I'm starting to feel like I'm rambling, people, because I'm tired. I've been working all day, and I'm at 36 minutes. So, people, on behalf of justice, and until tomorrow morning, where I'll probably elaborate on this a lot more, people, we have to learn And you have to truly understand what a malicious prosecution is and how you're going to fight it. Don't think the police are ever going to help you. If you're falsely arrested for something that you totally didn't do and you can prove the person didn't do it, the only good thing that'll happen is you'll get that case dismissed. Unless the police, unless it's a black man, because the police arrest a black guy for filing a false report in a heartbeat. Unless if you're anything other than a black man, you've had a very, 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 very good chance of getting someone who lied on you arrested for a false report. I'm not saying that everybody gets ignored because there are white people out there are gays out there who have been falsely arrested who are trying to fight to have the police arrest them, and the police are not. But what I'm saying is the majority of people who suffer from false petitions are black people. It's just a fact. The majority of people who are falsely arrested, falsely detained, and maliciously prosecuted are black people. So black people, eventually we're going to have to wake up. It takes a village. I'm not saying I'm that village. I'm one person who's hopefully trying to become part of a larger village that addresses the problem. So on behalf of Justice, Operation Rock, and one father's mission to educate all other fathers so they do not have to go through the hell I went through with an undesirable woman who was less than me, I use the knowledge I gained from that painful, unfortunate experience to try to educate other fathers so they do not have to go through the nightmare I went through. The biggest way to avoid the nightmare of dealing with a toxic, just completely petty, disgusting women is to watch who you put your penis in. That's the best advice that anyone will ever give a man out there who is dealing with issues with bitter and vexatious women. If you watched who you put your penis in from the beginning, you wouldn't be having this problem. And I can attest to that because I made that horrible mistake. I put my penis in the garbage, people, and I got nothing but bullshit and trash for 3.5 years of my life. Should I really be angry at this woman? No, people. I should be mad at myself. And do you know why? Because before I ever slept with this woman, I knew she was a piece of shit and I knew she was a piece of garbage. But people, my lust, my grief, my need to just be not alone after the death of someone weakened my judgment, and I made a horrible decision in a woman who was going to destroy my only child's life. Now, people, I can't hate this woman for that again because I knew she was less than me and a piece of shit before I ever had sex with her. The only person I can hate for that is me and work on myself enough that I never make the same mistake by choosing someone less than me, and I can be a good father to whatever children I have in the future. And that's the lessons we learn from choosing bad people in our lives that do horrible things to us. Learn from you. Don't always blame another person for everything that happens bad in a relationship with you. You have to accept your own wrongs, your own mistakes, because that's the only way you're going to come better. The only way you're going to become better is to acknowledge the fact that you made mistakes, that you need to change, and that you need to become a better person. Don't worry about the other person because there's an old adage, and it's the truth, people. You can't change anyone. The only one you can change is yourself. So on behalf of Justice and Operation Rock, this is Clayton. We'll be back tomorrow. People, stay positive, stay in tune, and remember, people, God got you. It may not seem like He got you. The battle feels lonely. God, it feels lonely some days. But if you stay strong, you stay with it, and you don't allow the disgusting, hating, just completely jealous, low-level people that want to harm you to win, you'll be fine. So again, people, for the 5th time of me saying this, on behalf of Justice and Operation Rock, this is Clayton. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you for watching. And remember, people, it takes a village. But to become part of a village, you have to be a cooperative villager. I'm cooperative. Are you? Support the movement, people. Support the movement to